A very warm welcome everyone, my name is Nick, welcome back to the channel, and we're going to have a recap on the latest ZX Spectrum games we reviewed, so numbered 201 to 250, so let's get going. And we start off first of all with Lemmings, a game I first played on the Commodore Amiga back in the day. I didn't really know it had come out on the ZX Spectrum very recently. I didn't think it would be possible to program it on the ZX Spectrum, but here it is. The animation is quite good, the levels are there, and it does an absolutely splendid job. It's a little bit difficult controlling it on the joystick to get all the different roles you need to assign for the Lemmings, but it starts off nice and easy, and I can fully recommend this game. If you're into Lemmings and want it on 8-bit systems, then this is a good conversion. Next is Action Fighter, a top-down game based on the arcades, in the style of Spy Hunter, which I slightly prefer. This isn't too bad, although it is rather monochrome. Get in the van, upgrade your weapons, and later levels sees you in a helicopter, an airplane, and a sports car, so it does try and vary a little bit. Not bad, not super brilliant either. Yeehaw! Good stuff. This is Narc from the arcades, moves very, very slowly. The tip of this game is to keep walking and walking and walking. Per my mind, this moves rather slow. I'm not a big fan of it. It's got a lot moving on the screen at the same time, so kudos there, but it slows it down too much, and it's a bit lethargic, this game. Clever with the levels though, and the phase between each one, but basically you must stop narcotics. But it's a horizontal shooter really. Kaboom! Some dogs are turn up. 4x4 off-road racer. Now this version is quicker than the Amiga version for some reason. It's not one of my favourites. It's a little bit slow again, although quicker than the, as I said, the Amiga one. Different levels, they all look the same rather than just a simple colour change. You must get from A to B without your fuel running out and without running out of time, and you do have these occasional rivers to jump, which I didn't do there. 4x4 off-road racing. It's an also-ran. Formula 1, a nice early game on the same era that Checkered Flag was about on pole position. A bit unusual that it's on a white road, but that's okay. The hands don't move on the steering wheel. But I do like seeing a racing game where you can actually see the wheels, although they don't seem to be turning here. Quite competent qualifying and racing, although in the race it is rather difficult to overtake. So maybe that is realistic after all. It's okay, a nice example of racing game. I think a few people might have missed this first time round. Now this game is absolutely brilliant. It's on the 128K Spectrum. Look at it, absolutely awesome. It's Pang, of course, based on the arcade game from Pang. Played it on the Amiga as well, this one. But, you know, as Spectrum games go, this is really hitting above its weight. Awesome, destroy all the balloons and then get on to the next stage, or bubbles, whatever they are. Very Japanesey in style, that's one of my favourite ones on the old Specky. Postman Pat and his black and white cat. There's a trilogy of games here, which I think we reviewed in this section. It's pretty basic, really aimed at kids, but you must drive your van around this village, it doesn't matter if you're going in reverse or forward, and deliver packages before the time runs out. Delivery 0 so far, but this person needs a delivery, here he is, and then he'll tell me where to deliver next. It's not overly exciting, but it's got the TV license of Postman Pat. Thank you, Pat, he says. Jess the cat doesn't make an appearance in here, for some reason. The Snowman, a very Christmassy sort of game. Essentially you must collect snow in this maze by avoiding these flames. Drop them over the snowman you can see that's building on the left. And once he's done, we go to the next level and have to give him a scarf, a hat and lots of other stuff. And a very shiny nose. Based on the Snowman the book. Very, very loosely I would say. If you're into gardening games, here's Pedro. It's very, very weird. Now, all these green plants he must guard against ants, cats and whoever turns up. He's got bricks to hit people with and to stamp on them. But as soon as these crops are all eaten, it's the end of the game. A tramp will occasionally come in and steal all the seeds, but anything that's been eaten we have to replant. Not too much to it. It's a little bit awkward to be fair, but it's quite funny to see. Typical Spectrum randomness. Go Pedro. This is a Boulder Dash clone called Down to Earth. Much more colourful than Boulder Dash on the ZX Spectrum, but plays rather similar. In this one, you have to destroy aliens as well by getting the boulders on their heads, and if you do it wrong, the boulder hits your head. There's bombs to push too, a little bit of loading times between each levels, but I can let that go. It's quite clever, been off a lot of people's radars, this one. Down to Earth. Sequel to Postman Pat, it's Postman Pat 2. This time he's dumped the van for some reason and he's walking around the village, or maybe they've had to scale down or it's been privatised. He must deliver letters again to the various houses without his energy running out, which is represented by the tier meter. There's objects to pick up now and again, which can do sort of like semi-tasks. The birds in these cutscenes aren't moving at all, which is very strange. Postman Pat 2, again, his cat just does not make an appearance. And pretty much like Postman Pat, it's Rambo. They've got the similar training. It's a run and gun. First of all, it starts off a bit slow because it's based on stealth. It does get a bit more exciting later on. There's weapons to pick up, finding around this map. It's a little bit of a free roam affair, unlike Commando or Akari Warriors. Time can move past quite fast without you knowing about it, so when I did this review I had to edit it seriously down. Rambo, First Blood, based on the film Rambo, First Blood. Turbo Esprit, this will go down as an all-time classic. Don't get confused with the steering wheel and the car in front, because you are controlling that car in front. It's a bit like, I don't know, a precursor to Grand Theft Auto, but you're a cop going around in this car, and you must, I think, attack drug smugglers by smashing up their car and not letting them get away. There's a few different cities to do, all on one set, and they can't say fairer than that. A really cool game. It's doing a lot. It is doing a lot. Great game. Which this one isn't. It's Postman Pat 3, different to Postman Pat 2 and Postman Pat 1. It should be called Paperboy, the rubbish edition. But basically in this very slow van, Pat doesn't get out the car this time. He's got bored. He throws his parcels to try and get at doors. He never gets out the van. I don't know how this got the Postman Pat licence. It seems like it was a very late decision. Avoid this one. Postman Pat 1's cute. Postman Pat 2, that's quite cute as well. No, not brilliant games. This one is a disaster. Postman Pat 3, leave it alone. BOMBJACK from the arcades, and this plays absolutely awesome on the ZX Spectrum. Whoever coded this are absolute geniuses. A really, really good fun game. It'd probably be in my top 10 if I was to do a top 10, which no doubt at some point I will do. Plays better than the Amiga version. This is 8-bit sensationalism. Lots of different levels there. The backgrounds do repeat every now and again, but it just controls really well. This, it's very obvious what you got to do. Collect all the bombs and avoid bumping into all the enemies. Overlander, not too bad as Spectrum racers go. You have different missions you have to do. Avoid the motorbikes and other enemies. There are end of level bosses as well to get around. It's a little bit slow, but acceptable on ZX Spectrum standards. Overlander, you can buy upgrades, missiles and guns, so there's quite a lot to do here. A little bit of undulation as well, which makes the tracks interesting. Hasn't gone all flat, so it's above average, to be honest, without being sensational. Overlander. And Terminator 2 Judgment Day, this is based on the film Terminator 2, and this is a dog of a game, and it's a dog on all systems I played it. This is a rather lethargic fight scene between Arnold Schwarzenegger and the T-1000, the liquid one, but it roughly follows the plot of the film if you're interested. The film is much better than the game, trust me on this one. Da-da-da-da-da-da, I won't be back, ever. Da-da-da-da, goodbye. Frank Bruno's boxing, based loosely on Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, or Punch-Out from the arcades. You must beat a succession of fighters, all got their own special skills and moves. Once you've beaten one person, it gives you a code, and then you have to load the next one on the tape. All of them are fictional characters. Frank Bruno never had to fight all of those. Know what I mean, Harry. It's okay, I suppose. There's a bit to it. You need to get your tactics right, but I never really got the hang of it, and I get knocked out every time I play it. Chuckie Egg 2, the sequel to Chuckie Egg. This is like the Jet Set Willy to Manic Miner, Chuckie Egg to Chuckie Egg 2. Basically, Chuckie Egg was all on single screens. This is on multiple screens where you must infiltrate a chocolate factory and repair stuff. I think you have to get a mixture or something like that. It's okay, but not as good as the original, which was quite unique. Control Hen House Harry, and then get bored and then load something else. But not a bad game. If you're into Sims, this is a banger racer. Now, you have to put in the hours to get any good at this, but you don't actually compete in the races. You can buy and sell cars, you can get experience, you can train your driver, but the idea is eventually by going through the season, which all look like this, you must start winning races and get points. It does seem boring, but as a kid playing this, as soon as you're making progress, you would have kept coming back to this. So it's one of these games that is quite addictive, a bit like your football management games. Fighting soccer on the ZX Spectrum, again, like all of these are. Football games are always tough to recreate on the ZX Spectrum. This is done sort of okay, but the players are all the same colour, so it's quite easy to get lost there. This is being played on the 128K with music playing all the way through. It's acceptable without being brilliant. It's not a game you would come back to over and over again, but interesting to see from a historical point of view. Go! Grand Prix circuit, annoying engine sounds on this when you hit top gear. Love this on the Commodore Amiga. It's more advanced than Formula 1 we looked at earlier on, but I was disappointed because I was expecting something a lot more. You can't see the wheels of the car, it's very rectangular, the dashboard there, how they've cut that off. It's a little bit boring, and also as well, it's even more difficult to overtake cars than in Formula 1 if you don't get off to a flying start. So Grand Prix circuit, okay, I prefer test drive. BOMBJACK 2, well coded but not as good as the original, and also as well there's that flashing BOMBJACK 2 which isn't one to look at if you've got epileptic fits and stuff, and you'll soon go blind watching that the whole time. It's interesting, but all the fun of the gameplay from BOMBJACK is gone. They did give you BOMBJACK free with this tape, so they was obviously a bit worried about it, but some people like this, but for me it hasn't quite worked. BOMBJACK 2, no, stick to BOMBJACK 1. And the same can be said for PAPERBOY 2. I love PAPERBOY 1 on the original ZX Spectrum. It was a bit monotone blue and black, and you're closer to the action. Here you're further away, there's no colour clash, it's been coded excellently, but for me it doesn't make a brilliant game. It's a little bit fiddly, collision detection isn't great, but the first one wasn't great either, but essentially deliver your papers, you can choose to be a paper girl or a paperboy. It's okay. PAPERBOY 2. La la la. The best thing about Match Day is the music. This was a lot of people's favourite football game back in the day. I didn't have it, so for me it's a little bit slow, but it's clever how they program lots of different players on the pitch at the same time. Feels like you're playing with a shot put rather than a football, but there are options to cheat, like I set handicaps by giving one team much more goals than the other. You can change your strips so it's different colours, don't always have to be white versus yellow, and once you get used to scoring goals, well, it's going to be a bit easier. Pinball power, it's an okay pinball game on the Specky. It's like an angled view, so it's a bit like if you were standing in front of it playing it, which is quite clever, so kudos for that. Ball bounces around a bit erratically sometimes and takes some odd rebounds, but as pinball games go, it's not too bad, but there is a better one coming up soon, which will be coming too. Hold on to your haircuts. The game did freeze one time when I was playing that, so I marked it down for that. Mercs. Now, I prefer Commando because it's more simple. I think the simple games work the best. This is very, very busy, but I can't argue that it is pretty clever. 1 to 2 players basically shoot everyone, advance, shoot trees out the way sometimes if they're blocking your path, like here, and move on. And there's some good end-of-level bosses in this game as well. Not one of my favourites. It's trying to attempt too much for my mind. Go, go, go! Grand Prix Championship. An isometric game, trying to be Super Sprint or Championship Sprint. It's not too bad. The cars are very, very small, but it does feel like you're driving them. You can go into the pits if you got damage on your car. Got qualifying session and then the race. There's quite a lot there. I quite like this one, although I wasn't very good at it. Once you get used to the acceleration mechanisms, you have to hit the fire button a few times to get up to top speed. You'll be doing quite well. Good sounds on this one as well. Titanic. This is like a Spanish game. If you're familiar with Scuba Dive, this is like an advancement on that, but on this game you have to find the Titanic. It's split into 2 halves, this bit, and then actually, well, swimming around the Titanic, it's all rather green. First half of the game, i.e. this bit, is a lot better, but it's really, really difficult. When I reviewed it, I had to have a cheat on for infinite energy. Even then I found it difficult. Titanic! I've got that sinking feeling. And he's dead. Eliminator. This is a futuristic racing game based on a checkered road where you must clear the highway of aliens who are taking over, well, the whole planet really. Aren't they always trying to do that? A number of different levels. Again, it's a little bit tricky. It moves quite fast and overall it is a good game. Eliminator. Played this also on the Commodore Amiga, but good to see it on the Spectrum as well. Collision detection isn't too bad. Sometimes when you die it does seem a bit random. And nice colour changes too. CLL, Tornado Low Level. Cyclone is another game in this series that come afterwards. This one's a bit more basic. You're flying an aircraft as opposed to a helicopter. And there's no wind in this to throw you off. Of course, you must collect these round dots we just flew past there. And that's pretty much it without crashing or blowing up into anything, which is easier said than done. Quite nice really, like a free roam flying game. Spectrum's doing a lot here, so you know, it's a clever coding. Q-Boy, you can play on the pool game or the snooker. When I did the review I played snooker, so we do pool here. What flaws this game is, like a lot of snooker games, is the aiming mechanism is rubbish. It doesn't give you an ideal line, so you know, you're aiming very, very roughly and it makes it very, very difficult. The computer wins quite often, but graphically it's quite nice. If you can get used to it, you might get a bit out of it, but not really one for me, I don't think. BMX Simulator. Now this game's very, very annoying. A lot of people had it as their favourite game. I think it only costs about £1 or £2, but the collision detection is terrible. It's a bit hard to see which direction your bike's turning in, so if you crash into the scenery, sometimes you get stuck in it and you'll just keep falling over and over and over again, which wouldn't really happen in real BMXing unless you were terrible. And if you were terrible, you certainly wouldn't be at a BMX track. I fancy a hot dog for some reason. Yeah, move on. Nightmare Rally. This reminds me a little bit of 3D Death Chase. It's sort of like free roam, where your cars go between different flags before a certain timeline. Stage 1 is a lot easier than Stage 2, as you sort of like expect, but the difficulty level really ramps up after this. You can do various stunts, and it just feels nice to play. I get a big nostalgia buzz off this one, and you know, I really recommend it. If you can track this down, it's Nightmare Rally. Go between the gates like that, and everything is looking good. This is a bit of an April Fool's joke, this one. It was, I think, on a cover magazine of Your Sinclair. They said it'd be $14.99. It's Advanced Lawnmower Simulator. It wasn't actually a game. Basically, you press any key and you just mow this fictitious grass. You have a choice of lawnmowers at the start. Most of them are broken. All of them are broken apart from one. And then once you mowed all the grass, you get a random message at the end. What will it be? Well done, you've earned yourself a corned beef sandwich. So it wasn't actually a game. That was an April Fool's joke. Hooray! International Match Day. I feel a bit robbed by this. It's like Match Day, but on the 128k. The music is a lot better, but for my mind, the gameplay is identical. It might be a little bit different, but only minusculely. I can't tell the difference. But you have got international teams this time. So Ghana Rickman Rovers and Soccerama. Now it's England versus Spain. But the end result is pretty much the same. Hooray! It's a bit slow for me. Time Scanners. Now this is an absolutely awesome pinball game on the ZX Spectrum. The best I've actually played. Ball mechanics are quite good for an 8-bit system there. And the tables are excellent. Once you complete one table going through time, you go to a different era like ruins or Egypt. The Amiga version was terrible. Spectrum version absolutely great. I could play this for a long, long time. So if you're looking for a pinball table on the Spectrum, look at Time Scanner. Pac-Land, based on the arcades. Now, how this game suffers badly is all the other versions I played, the screen scrolls, so Pac-Man stays in the middle. This one you have to walk over the side, so you're just going to walk into an accident a lot of the time. It's not brilliant, especially when it gets to the bridge jumping stages. Much better on any other version I played. It looks quite nice, but trust me, it's absolutely frustrating. Badlands, the sequel to Super Sprint and Championship Sprint, and this is the best of the three. Plays really well on the ZX Spectrum. Car glides around the place. You can upgrades for your car. Lovely tracks all over one screen. I'm a big fan of this one. It's probably one of my favourite top-down racers on the 8-bit system. Looks nice. It's an apocalyptic racing. Badlands, and a cool name too. Now this is by subscriber Asked A More, a Yankee in Iraq. I'm really impressed by this game. I've reviewed so far 2 homebrews by people that watch the channel or subscribe to the channel. We might be doing more in the future, but if they're of the quality of this one, then I'll be happy to do it. This is great stuff. Takes a bit of getting used to with the inertia, but you must get this helicopter and destroy the baddie in Iraq, in his palace. Who's the baddie? Probably Saddam Hussein, I guess. Mission failed. I saw that a lot. Dan Dare, pilot of the future, based on the character from the Eagles comics. It's Dan Dare versus the Mekon, but in this, I think an asteroid's heading towards the Earth or something, and we must destroy it. Yes, but I was really impressed with this game. No real colour clash at all. It's a good exploration game. Difficulty level just about right. You've got an energy bar there, so you don't die straight away with one shot. We have to shoot all these trees. They're the Mekon's henchmen. And I think we have to put together some sort of device. Match Day 2 is pretty much Match Day 1 with slightly different characters and a power bar for shooting for different things. It's the same sort of thing. Ripman United are back and Soccer Armour. Hooray! Well, if you like Match Day 1, you probably like Match Day 2, but there's not too much difference really. A little bit more finesse with the powers and shooting, but same sort of thing once again. Football. But all of these are better than fighting soccer, where there's no fighting at all. Trailblazer, this game is extremely clever. How have they managed to program this? Like, you've got a starfield coming towards you, you've got this ball, and you must direct it over holes and do it before time runs out. There's a nice trainer, multiple levels. This game, although frustratingly difficult, is absolutely excellent. Look at it. ZX Spectrum 48K. How are you doing this? I wouldn't know where to start programming this. Really good game. Trailblazer. 3D Starfighter, well, not as good as 3D Star Strike, but it's interesting. Well, it's interesting first of all, but the levels are way too long. You have to shoot far too many stuff, and you start off with too much energy. Influenced by games from the arcade like Star Wars, which will come in the next 50, I'm sure. But yeah, go to various planets, shoot various things, but you're going to get bored quite quickly. Nice programming with the stars coming towards you again, but it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. Cluedo, based on the board game Cluedo, where you must roll a dice, pick up murder cards, go to different rooms and accuse people of doing the murder, and if you're successful, then you are the winner. Hooray! It's a board game, better with people rather than on a computer, but there we go, good to see a representation there. Yes. I suggest the murder was committed in the conservatory by Miss Scarlet with the rope. Was it? Killer Bees. This is the second homebrew I've done by a subscriber to the channel, Gary James. And basically, with these bees, you must sting all the aliens and avoid rival swarms. Yes. Based on a game on the Odyssey, if you're aware of that system. He's done another one as well called Terrorhawks, which I've been meaning to come to at some point, so that's on the list to do. If it's as good as this one, it's going to be great. Sting, 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 you'll die. Dan Dare 2, Mekon's Revenge. A few of you like this one. I didn't like it too much compared to the first one. I thought the first game was genius. The inertia of Dan Dare on his bike, it just annoys me somewhat. You can be either the Mekon or Dan Dare. For me, it's just frustrating. The bike just seems to want to go somewhere different. You've got people helping you also in white, so I get mixed up thinking, are they me? Where am I? And it's just, yeah. Anyway, it's good graphically, nice shading, but just a bit flawed in the gameplay. And this is Dan Dare 3, The Escape. The best one of the three. This didn't start out as a Dan Dare game initially, but it had the Dan Dare skin or license put on later on. It's quite brilliant, although it's very tricky as well, like a lot of these games. When I reviewed it, I did have a poke on. There's some cool interstellar modes where you must go through like some squares. But collect lots of fuel and escape from the planet. Quite easy to die, as I did there. Cobra, based on the film Cobra loosely. Jonathan Smith had a big hand in that, and that means wackiness every now and again. But you collect burgers for different weapons. You must rescue Ingrid, your girlfriend, and guide her over different levels and escape. Very difficult without a poke on again. Boom. And the last game of this 50 look at, game 250, is LED Storm. Again in the style of Action Fighter or Spy Hunter. Moves extremely fast. It's monochrome, although the colours do change from level to level. You can jump. Moves very, very fast, but maybe a bit too fast. It's quite easy to bump into stuff. And again, it can get a little bit frustrating. But okay, one of those category ones, coded well, doesn't play great. LED Storm. Got great music at the start though. So I hope you liked having a look at those ones. If you did, then put a thumbs up or subscribe to the channel. Until next time, take great care of yourself and a very fond goodbye.
Goodbye.